Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Commander's Forge. My name is Andy Bentley, and the Forge is an area for me to talk about magic, Commander, and anything else that tries to drag this whole mental health thing out of the gutter. Now, my LGS, WNY Gaming, was shorted by their distributor for their last set, the Tarkir Dragonstorm. So, what they did was they set up a sign up through their website to guarantee a spot in the pre-release. I did not know this, but my cousin mentioned they had the sign-ups for the Final Fantasy pre-release. So I decided to sign up for all 3 days. So I'm playing in the Two-Headed Giant Friday with my cousin as my partner. I'm going to play in the single on Saturday and the single on Sunday. Now, the one on Sunday typically is the Commander decks, but because of their supply issues, it's just going to be a regular one, apparently. But still, I dropped a pretty penny on it. I'm really excited for the set. And yeah, that's just kind of the life update for right now. I haven't really been out to play Magic recently because I've been A, not feeling great, and B, really, really busy. So, yeah, most of what I've done with Magic has just been sitting at my desk, feverishly going through cards. I've got a few decks in the works that I've been tinkering with. I've got a couple of version 1 decks that I still need to get out and playtest more. It's just been rough. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll try and convince my cousin to host a game night or something. Yeah, I'm just chilling. Just trying to keep the bills paid and not, you know, be sitting here running out of money every day. That said, I've kind of come to the conclusion that one of the best ways I can keep up with Magic is to sell off cards every, I don't know, like 6 months. And so what I'll do is I'll get a flat rate shipping box from the post office, and I will fill it with cards. And the size box I get can typically send, I don't know, like maybe 3,500 cards. And you seal that up, and then you can send it to. Typically, I go through Star City Games. You send it to them; they'll sort through it themselves. They'll give you an offer. If you accept the offer, they send you money or they give you store credit. And if you don't accept the offer, they ship it back to you. But I think it might be time for another purge. I'm starting to run out of room again. So, speaking of Final Fantasy, I wanted to go through and, with most of, if not all of the set spoiled, go over some of the cards that relate to my favorite Final Fantasy game. And my Final Fantasy game that is my favorite is 10. It was the first Final Fantasy game I ever played, and it just, holds a special place in my heart. So, I'm going to go through some cards that are mostly characters in the game, not so much cards that are just referencing it. So first up we have Jecht, Reluctant Guardian, 3 in a black, for a 4/3 human warrior with Menace. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you can exile it, then return to the battlefield transformed, and he becomes Braska's final Aeon. So the way the summons work, they're sagas and creatures. So steps 1 and 2 for him are each opponent discards a card and you draw a card. And step 3 is each opponent sacrifices 2 creatures of their choice. So he is the main protagonist's father who disappeared 10 years ago. He ends up in Spira, which is the land of Final Fantasy X, and slowly through his journey realizes he doesn't have a way home. And so he ends up leaving clues for you to find throughout the game called Jex Spheres. Next up we have Sin, Spira's Punishment. There's actually a couple different versions of Sin, but this is the first one I came across. 4, and then black, green, blue for a 7/7 Leviathan avatar. It has flying, and whenever Sin enters or attacks, exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random. Then create a tap token that's a copy of that card. If the exiled card is a land card, repeat this process. I talked about this last week because I saw somebody had pre-built a Sin deck. It's actually really nasty. But, you know, Sin is the ever-returning bad guy for Spira. Next up, we have the main set Tidus, which is the... Again, I refuse to call him Tidus. Tidus, Blitzball Star. 1, a white and a blue for a 2/1 human warrior. Whenever an artifact you control enters, you put a counter on him. Whenever he attacks, you tap a creature. Yeah. Next up, we have Yuna, Hope of Spira, 3, a green and a white for a 3/5 human cleric. During your turn, Yuna and equipment creatures you control have Trample, Lifelink, and Ward 2. And at the beginning of your end step, return up to 1 target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Simple, easy, clean. It's just, yeah. Now, I did pull this one just because it is iconic to Final Fantasy X. It's the Blitzball. It's a 3-mana mana rock that taps for any color, but it has an ability called Goal. You can tap it, sacrifice this artifact to draw 2 cards, activate only if an opponent was dealt combat damage by a legendary creature this turn. There are the towns, and one of them is Guado Salam, the Farplane Gateway. It's a town, enters tapped, taps for green and blue. The other one that I found is Zanarkand, the Ancient Necropolis, which is a town, but is also an adventure. So, as a town, it enters taps for green. As the adventure, it's called Lasting Faith. 4 green for a sorcery. Create a 1/1 colorless hero creature token. Put a +1/+1 counter on it for each land you control. Looking further in, I found a Seymour Flux. 4 and a black for a 5/5 Spirit Avatar. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 1 life. If you do, draw a card, then put a +1/+1 counter on Seymour Flux. Also, that is the hardest fight with Seymour. Full stop. Like, even the last fight with Seymour isn't that hard. But Seymour Flux is just a pain to fight. When I was looking through the reskinned cards, I found Stay With Me, which is a reskin of Rhystic Study. So 2 and a blue, jam it. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you can draw a card unless that player plays 1. More importantly, this is the scene where Yuna really opens up to Tidus after they beat the morphing crystal guy. Another reskin card I found was Seymour Guado, is a reskin of Kinnan Bonder Prodigy. So it's a green and a blue for a human druid. Whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, add 1 mana of any type that permanent produced. And you can pay 5, a green and a blue, to look at the top 5 cards of your library. You can put a non-human creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. Right, still in the reskin cards, I found Lucca Stadium, which is a reskin of Strixhaven Stadium. That's the Blitzball field. So it's 3 for an artifact. You can tap it for a colorless to put a point counter on the artifact. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, remove a point counter from this artifact. And whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, put a point counter on this artifact. Then if there are 10 or more point counters on it, remove them all, and that player loses the game. Now, a lot of the Final Fantasy X stuff, you're going to find in the commander decks, mostly the Bant one I found. So that starts with Titus, Yuna's Guardian, which is Bant, green, white, blue, for a 3/3 human warrior. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you can remove a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control, and he has the ability Cheer. Whenever one or more creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you can draw a card and proliferate. Do this only once per turn. We also have Yuna, Grand Summoner, 1 and Bant, so green, white, blue, for a 1/5 human cleric. She has Grand Summon, which is tap, add 1 mana of any color. When you cast your next creature spell this turn, that creature enters with 2 additional +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever another permanent you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, if it had 1 or more counters on it, you may put that many counters on target creature. I found Auron, the Venerated Guardian, 3 and a white for a 2/5 human spirit samurai with vigilance, and he has the ability Shooting Star, which is one of his overdrives. Whenever Auron attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. When you do, exile target creature defending player controls with power less than Auron's power until Auron leaves the battlefield. So this is fun, and yeah. Next up, I did pull this one, even though they're not main characters, they do play a big part in the game. It's Gata and Luzu. 2 and a white for a 1/1 human soldier with flash. When it enters, choose a target creature you control. If damage would be dealt to that creature, this turn prevent that damage and put that many +1/+1 counters on it. So it is a one-shot thing, but, you know, you slap something that lets you flicker this guy and go to town. Next, I found Lord Jiskel Guado, 1 and a white for a 2/1 Spirit Cleric with flying, and the beginning of your end step. If you put a counter on a creature this turn, investigate. I also found Lulu, Stern Guardian, 2 and a blue for a 2/3 Human Wizard. Whenever an opponent attacks you, choose target creature attacking you. Put a stun counter on that creature. You can also pay 3 and a blue to proliferate. Riku, the Resourceful Guardian, is 2 and a blue for a 2/3 Human Artificer. Whenever you put 1 or more counters on a creature until end of turn, that creature can't be blocked by creatures your opponents control. And she has Steal. For 1 and tap, move a counter from target creature and opponent controls onto target creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. We found Maester Seymour, 2 and a green for a 1/3 Human Elf Cleric. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to Maester Seymour's power on another target creature you control. And you can pay 3 green to Monstrosity X, where X is the number of counters among creatures you control. Which is, I mean, he does get pretty monstrous. I found the Sphere Grid, which is like the main way you power up in that game. 1 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. And then it has unlockability. Creatures you control with counters on them have reach and trample. We found Kimahri, the Valiant Guardian, 2, a green and a blue for a 3/3 Cat Warrior. Really? They made the Ronso cats? I mean, they do have blue fur, but they also have freaking horns. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. He has Vigilance and Ronso's Rage. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, put a counter on Kimahri and tap target creature and opponent controls. Then you may have Kimahri become a copy of that creature, except its name is Kimahri, Valiant Guardian, and it has Vigilance and this ability. See, that's a pretty cool way to incorporate his ability, because he can learn monster skills as his overdrive. So that's actually a pretty smart way to do that. I found Shalinda, Yevon Acolyte, a green and a white for a 2/2 Human Cleric with lifelink. Whenever another creature you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature if its power is less than Shalinda's power. Otherwise, put a +1/+1 counter on Shalinda. I found the second sin, Unending Cataclysm. 5, a green and a blue for a 5/5 Leviathan Avatar with flying and trample. As Sin enters, remove all counters from any number of artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. Sin enters with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is twice the number of counters removed this way. When Sin dies, put its counters on target creature you control, then shuffle this card into its owner's library. I found Waka, the Devoted Guardian. 2, a green and a white for a 4/4 human warrior with reach and trample. Whenever Waka deals combat damage to a player, destroy up to one target artifact that player controls and put a +1/+1 counter on Waka. He has Blitzball Captain. At the beginning of your end step, if a counter was put on Waka this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. Now, I don't necessarily want to talk about all of the reskinned cards, but a lot of the lands in the Commander decks have been reskinned with locations from the games. So I'm going to do some of them. So for Brushland, which is a land that taps for a colorless or can tap for a green and a white and deal 1 damage to you, the art they used for it is the Calm Lands, which was a land where Sin was defeated in the past, but it really sundered the land, and yeah. The Evolving Wilds, which, land, tap, sack, search library for a basic, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. It is the cliffs overlooking the water where the Elbed and the Crusaders tried to fight Sin and got wiped the heck out. The Exotic Orchard, which is a land that taps for 1 mana of any color of land an opponent could produce, is Guadosalam. It's just the streets of Guadosalam. The Forge of Heroes. So it's a land, taps for colorless. You can tap it, choose target commander that entered this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature, and a loyalty counter on it if it's a commander. It's the monster hunting arena that you find in the offshoot off of the Calm Lands. Next up, the Flooded Grove, which is a land you can tap it for a colorless, or you can pay a green or a blue and tap it to add double green, green blue, or double blue. And this is the spot where you fight that crystal shifting monster that Oran finds in the forest. That name is escaping me at the moment. Next up, we have the Hinterland Harbor. It's land, enters tapped unless you control a forest or an island. It taps for a green and a blue. And it's the river that you cross on the Shoepuff before you get Riku in your party. Idyllic Beachfront is just the tap land from Dominaria, I think. Anyway, it's a Plains Island. It enters tapped, and it's the beach of Besaid. There's a little blitzball on it. Yeah. Next up, we have Nesting Grounds. It's a land, enters tapped. It doesn't enter tapped. It taps for a colorless. You can pay 1, tap it, and move a counter from target permanent you control into a second permanent you control. Activate only as a sorcery. And it's showing the red and blue butterflies that you have to catch in that forest, whose name I can't remember at the moment. Is it Macalania? The Macalania Woods? That sounds right. Next up, we have Port Town. It's a land, enters tapped. You can reveal a plains or an island from your hand. If you do, it enters untapped. Taps for a white and a blue. And I believe this is a view of, it's Luca, because you can see the stadium in the background. Next up, we have the Overflowing Basin. It's a land. You can pay 1, tap it to get green, blue. And it's the Field of Flowers in a place whose name escapes me at the moment. But yeah. It's on the banks of that one river. After that, we have a Radiant Grove. It's a forest and a plains. It enters tapped, and it's a view of the far plane, which is, where you go when you're a spirit. And finally, we have the Seaside Citadel. So it's land, enters tapped, taps for Bant, and it is Bevel. It's the aerial view of the city of Bevel, which is the holy city of Yevon. But yeah, that's it. And that kind of took me to the 20-minute mark, so I think I'm going to call it there. And I will see you next time. But just know, I do love Final Fantasy X. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. All of my links can be found in my link tree in the description below. I would like to thank Ian Foss and Cody Mulphy of the band The Crypt for allowing me to use music for my opening and ending, along with Nate and Erica Jacobs for making my original logo. And I would also like to thank Christina McNichol for creating my new logo. And I'll see you next time.